If you struggle getting triggered during tennis matches when your opponent celebrates, then you've come to exactly the right video, because we're going to be talking about a match that we just had here on the Essential Tennis Courts. And that was a really special matchup between Mike right here and Mark on the other side. And I was joined in the commentary booth by Scott. Incredible match, great fight by both players. But as the match unfolded, there was a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but there was a little bit of friction, but not so much for the players, it was more for the viewers. You see, we had over 1,300 people watching live in the chat, which was incredible. All of you who were there watching live, it was so much fun watching the match with you and with Scott as well. We just had an amazing time. But Mike, his favorite player growing up was Lleyton Hewitt. And Lleyton Hewitt kind of has a certain connotation in terms of being a competitor. And he rubs some people the wrong way. In fact, I went online and found like a picture of Lleyton Hewitt. He had this kind of trademark like celebration with the "come on," and I didn't even realize it, but he literally had the word "come on" written on his shirt. So like, talk about like a competitive personality that really just has some jagged edges and presents a certain mental challenge, right? When you're playing an opponent who's super hyped up, who's super pumped up, who is celebrating after you lose points, after you lose games, that's sometimes a little bit challenging to deal with emotionally, right? So Mike was starting to celebrate after winning certain points, and I don't remember if it was in the first set or the second set, but the first set he won relatively easily. He played incredibly well. It was 6-1. Mark was ahead in the second set. He ended up breaking Mike and got off to an early lead in the second set. And when Mike started coming back again, he started celebrating and saying, "come on." And the reaction from the chat was to kind of get triggered. I'm watching, the chat, scroll by, and there was several people watching that said, "Oh, be quiet, Mike, like stop celebrating. That's so obnoxious. That's so annoying." Certain tennis players just really have a hard time dealing with an opponent celebrating a win, celebrating some kind of big shot or what have you. Now, meanwhile, on the other side of the court, Mark, when he felt like he was kind of losing momentum in the second set, he started going with a different tactic. He was starting to use the bouet grunt. If you're not familiar with it, this is Andrei Rublev, and this has kind of been memed over the last, I would say, last couple weeks. I've started seeing it pop up. But Mark, live during the match, started using this grunt, and like Scott and I up in the commentary booth immediately noticed the difference. So you can be sure that Mike knew the difference as well, Mark's opponent over on the other side of the net. And we're going to talk about kind of the response that both those players had in a minute. But the chat, 1,300 people watching live, if you look at the kind of the graph of like the activity in the chat, the first point where Mark started using the bouet grunt, the activity in the chat just went nuts, and people were absolutely loving it. So reflecting back on it, it was kind of interesting or funny or maybe even ironic to me that when Mike was saying "come on," the chat was triggered, and the chat was like, "Oh, stop celebrating, it's not classy, like tell Mike to be quiet." But when Mark, during the point, was using the bouet grunt, the chat was like, "Oh, this is amazing." Now, I get it, it's kind of a little bit of like internet, trolling kind of humor, a little bit of memeing of the grunts. Like, I get it, like it's funny. But put yourself in Mike's shoes. Like, really, which of those would be more challenging to deal with if you're on the other side of the net? Kind of celebrating and saying "come on" is a pretty, I guess, standard, tennis thing. This, on the other hand, I think you could make an argument that is a little bit more aggressive in terms of gamesmanship. Now, that honestly, totally separate discussion. I'm not here to like debate like which one is like better or worse or anything like that. I just wanted to present kind of the interesting comparison between those two different kind of reactions or responses to the competitive moment on the court. So what's the difference between those two? In my opinion, this word is key. What's your perspective as a tennis player during a competitive battle, during a competitive struggle on the court? Listen, if you've signed up for tennis, if you are trying to pursue it and be as competitive as possible, be the highest level player possible, you need to have a very clean and clear perspective of what your opponent does on the other side of the net and what that means for you. Because you will play opponents who present you with a huge plethora of different mental challenges. Some opponents are going to celebrate when you make unforced errors. Some opponents are going to make bad line calls. Some opponents are going to grunt in a really obnoxious way. Some opponents are going to forget the score, or maybe even flat out like try to cheat you. Some opponents are going to have ugly, strokes, and you're not going to like the way that they look or the way that they play. In the live chat right now, if we wanted to make a list of like all the different ways that tennis opponents could be obnoxious or annoying, we could be here literally all day. We could come up with thousands of different ways that tennis opponents can be challenging. Your perspective on what your opponents do or say or how they act is critical. And I want to give a big shout out to Mike and Mark, because in my opinion, in that moment with 1,300 people watching, can you imagine if you're watching right now, imagine 1,300 people in a live audience watching you play tennis live, and in Mike's shoes, his opponent is over there yelling "bois" as he hits the ball, and in Mark's shoes, his opponent is on the other side, he wasn't doing the full-on like Leighton Hewitt, but doing pretty standard, but pretty celebratory and aggressive like come-ons. Either of them could have cracked and allowed that situation to put them in a really negative mind space. But I want to kind of celebrate these two competitors today, because neither of them allowed that to happen. They both could have easily had a perspective of oh man, this is so obnoxious, so annoying. They're just trying to mess me up. They're a bad sport. Whatever have you. Neither of them said a word about it. And even in the post-match, interview, as we were talking about it later, Mike was kind of laughing about it after the fact and saying, "Oh yeah, I noticed it, but I didn't really know what he was doing, and I thought it was weird, but he just kept playing." And that is the response. If you want to be a high-level tennis player, you need to have that mental resiliency to notice that your opponent is doing something that you could receive as being obnoxious or annoying or throwing you off your game, and instead just keep going about your business. And if you get triggered instead, which way do you think you're going to perform better? Which way do you think you're going to win more matches? Just going about your business and just being focused in terms of keeping your mental toughness, in check, or getting triggered and being like, "Oh, this guy's a total fill in the blank. I'm going to keep it family friendly here." You get the idea. The choice is yours, but choice also, last thing here that I want to talk about, you also have the choice to work on your mental muscle. You can develop this as a strength. You can develop this as a tool that's in your toolbox. Some tennis players just get triggered by everything. And anytime they're in a tight kind of do or die scenario, their performance just falls off a cliff. Other competitors, when they're put in that same scenario, their performance raises, because they have the perspective of saying, this is what it's all about. This is what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to be on easy street and have my opponents just hand me victories. I signed up to have a battle today. I signed up to be challenged. I signed up to have somebody on the other side of the net that's going to present me with a big obstacle to overcome. That's why I came today. And so here's different ways that you can kind of develop that mindset. First of all, when was the last time any of you challenged an annoying player on purpose, right? Like literally called somebody up who kind of rubs you the wrong way and go play a match against them. That would be a fantastic way to start working on your ability to respond in those difficult situations. Seek discomfort in general. Like this isn't so much a tennis thing, but just kind of a general thing. Anytime in day-to-day life, in traffic or waiting in line at the grocery store or whatever, we're constantly presented with situations in life where we have the choice to view that situation through a perspective of like, come on, like why are you trying to just make life difficult for me? Or view it through the perspective of, you know what, they probably just don't even know what they're doing. I'm just going to go about my business and do the best that I can and not worry so much about them. Just keep that in mind as you go through day-to-day life. Easier said than done, but a great way to work on your mental muscle. Thirdly, expand your awareness. Hopefully this conversation that we've had today and the example, and by the way, I highly encourage you, if you haven't watched the match, I highly encourage you to watch the match because it's a great example of two competitors in a very high stakes environment that both had mental obstacles to overcome. Just knowing that you have a choice to respond and take either this path or this path, I think is a huge awareness boost, hopefully for a lot of you. Let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat if that's the case. Like you have the choice to take one path or the other. You can take the victim path and be offended by it and be triggered by it, or you can be aware of what's happening and be like, okay, like I see what's happening here and I choose to put my focus, I choose to put my attention on what's actually going to help me play better instead of putting my attention on what's going to make me play worse. You need to own that. Like you have that choice. Fourthly, oh no, I already talked about that one. Grow your perspective. And finally, practice letting go. And that's kind of what I'm describing right there. Anytime you feel yourself getting annoyed, you feel yourself kind of getting triggered, you have to understand that it's your choice. You have the option of either feeding the negative and being like, oh, how dare they? They're so annoying. Like, this is so stupid. Like, why am I wasting my time against this person? Or you have the choice to let go of that frustrating thing, whatever it is, and take your attention and place it on your energy, your tactics, your shot selections, your whatever strategy that you're using, making tactical adjustments throughout the match, so on and so forth. You have the choice whether or not you do that. So I just wanted to highlight this because I thought it was such a critical lesson in terms of mental toughness, and I really want to commend both Mike and Mark. Either of them could have been triggered themselves by what was happening in this match and allowed it to infiltrate their mental state and allow it to affect their performance. But neither of them allowed that to happen. So I just want to commend both of them and say that it was an incredible example of sportsmanship, of mental toughness, of focus, and seeing the reaction in the chat from people that weren't even part of the match. They weren't even playing tennis. They were just watching tennis. To me, it was just kind of a classic example of you have the choice to either be like Mike or Mark in that situation or allow it to affect your match play. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this is helpful. Thanks so much for watching today. And those of you watching live, if you have any questions, I'll go through the chat really quick. It's probably pretty meme-ified, but I'm curious to see what's going on here. Hey, Saria, good to see you. Justin, good to see you. Mark Stansett in the chat, good to see you. Hey, Alex, I see your question about Mark and I kind of debating the importance of gear strings. Yeah, it's not that I'm against gear or strings. I think there's a best fit for everybody. I happen to know like what my best fit is. I guess the reason why I'm not super into talking about it is it's subjective. Like it's an opinion. It's different for everybody. So my answer is basically always the same. Like, try some stuff. Like, I don't know if you like a flexible racket or a stiff racket, or a handle heavy racket or a head heavy racket, or stiff strings or flexible strings. Like, I don't know. Like you do you know. Like I know like my answer to all those things. I think everybody kind of needs to find their own answer. Hey, Michael. Yeah, I use an old Wilson racket. It's a 95 square inch racket. It was only made for a year or two. Hey, Mark, thanks for the super chat. I will bleh at least once in the podcast today. Yeah, to be totally honest, Michael, I'm looking for a racket sponsorship. And I'm gonna keep. I've been looking for a racket sponsor for many years, and until I have an official like sponsor, I'm just gonna keep painting my racket. So that's why I paint it. Yeah, Justin, totally agree. Justin in the chat says, gotta do what Novak does: block out the sound and accept thoughts. Can you imagine being Novak? Yeah, like any given match, like half the crowd is like rooting against him. And half the crowd wants him to win. Obviously, total estimation, but there's a lot of people that actively root against Novak in his matches. Can you imagine being in that position as a professional athlete and match after, like all the I don't want to say hate necessarily, but all the doubters, all the naysayers, just year after year after year. Incredible mental. Frankly, I think Novak plays a lot better because of it. I think it has strengthened him, and I think that's an incredible lesson for everybody, for sure. Yeah, it's Tech DIYer. That's right. We're live right now. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, I do keep my racket as I'll tell you, it's an old Wilson racket. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's secret in the sense that like I'm not gonna like make it public like what racket I'm using until I have a racket sponsor. Yeah, I paint. That actually would be actually a good idea, Adrian. Have a video about how to paint your racket. Yeah, I just use spray paint. Just $2 spray paint cans from the hardware store. The key is having a lot of distance between the can and your racket, so that when the paint gets to the racket, it's just like a very fine mist. If you go really close to the racket and just like spray the paint like an inch away from the racket, then that's when it gets really like thick and like drippy. So you want to make sure you're like 2 feet or 3 feet away from the racket. Why do people not like Novak? Hey, what's up, Ira? Yeah, I think Novak has a certain ego and like bravado about him. It's interesting because in other sports, like in here in the United States, like basketball, football, it's kind of almost a plus if you have that kind of ego. But in tennis, it just kind of clashes with, I think, the culture and the history of the sport. And so there's a lot of tennis fans that he rubs the wrong way. Yeah, Federer definitely has haters, just not nearly not even close to as many as Novak. But yeah, there's people that think Federer is overrated. I mean, most of them are Djokovic fans. Djokovic fans for sure. Like people who are hardcore Djokovic fans think that, generally speaking, think that Roger is overrated and not the GOAT. Let's see. Answer a couple more questions here. Thoughts on players doing a dramatic collapse on the court after winning majors and then laying there for a while. I'll tell you what, Liam, I'm not going to judge. I've tasted like a tiny, tiny, tiny microscopic like amount of that, like playing in front of the cameras here, knowing that tens of thousands of people are going to see and criticize me and celebrate me. You know, some people are going to say, "Oh, thank you so much. Like, you're helping inspire me." Other people are going to say, "Oh, you're terrible. Like, you're just not even a good player. Why are you even coaching? Like, you shouldn't be like helping." Like, I receive both of those messages pretty much every day. And so when day after day I choose to just do the best I can, to work hard, to try to improve myself, try to keep my game developing, and then when I go out onto the court and I feel I feel that, you know, that external pressure coming in, and I have a success, I can understand where that reaction comes from. Again, like my success, you know, relative to like winning a major is like 0.0000, you know, 1%. But to get up in the morning, get out of bed in the face of all of that pressure and just do the best you can, and then to have a taste of like success, I understand where they're coming from. So for them at that scale, the whole world, you know, is watching. People are betting millions of dollars, saying that they're going to win, saying that they're going to lose. There's millions of people watching, and so when you win match after match, you know, round after round after round, and this has been like a lifelong dream. Your entire life is to win one of these, you know, tournaments, and then in that instant where you go from not being a major champion to being a major champion, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they can. I mean, yeah, you have to be aware of the situation and your opponent, and you know, you have to be situationally aware. But I totally get that reaction, that response. I totally understand. Anyway, just a little bit of, those are my thoughts. That's my perspective. Louise, I've been using Wilson Trinity balls to train with for quite a while, and I'm a big fan of them. They last forever. Lots of stuff in here. Do you think Murray should retire? Nah, Murray can do whatever he wants to do. Like, if he wants to keep playing, if he keeps entering tournaments and losing every match, and he wants to keep entering tournaments, like I think, yeah, let him do what he wants to do. Like, if that's what brings him happiness, then Murray should keep playing tennis for sure. When are you releasing your next match? So yeah, George, so I've already played a match that you all don't know about yet. And let's see, it'll probably be out in about 2 weeks, maybe three weeks. I have another match this next week. And Ben, MEP, is coming up. I'm not going to put a timeline on that but he's coming up pretty soon. I don't want you all to get, we have so much content that like gets stacked up, you know, every time we record a match, it basically adds another week to our production calendar. So yeah, I don't want you all to get super hyped for anything because it might take a little while for it to come out. So hopefully you understand that. Yeah, Ball Machine is a Playmate iGenie. It's the best. Like it's the best ball machine you can buy. I'm looking for my iPad. You can control all the different functions from an iOS app. The height, the spin, the speed, the sequence of shots. You know, you can do a deep, heavy topspin shot, and then a slice shot to the other corner, and then a drop shot, and then a lob. Like, you can set up absolutely any sequence. It's incredible. So yeah, big shout out to Playmate. They're an official sponsor of Essential Tennis. Let's see. Liam, you don't see those types of reactions in other sports? I don't know about that. Like, I'm pretty sure like I can picture basketball players laying on the court, actually, like a lot of them. Like after a buzzer beater, or like especially March Madness, you know, like Final Four, like the player who hits the winning shot, like laying down, and like I feel like I've seen that a lot in other sports, to be honest. Like I'm picturing Michael Jordan, like crying and holding the trophy and stuff like that. Ira, I don't know what I'm the GOAT of, but it's definitely not tennis. Yeah, you're welcome, Arav. Ping pong players laying on the ground. You could probably find, for every sport, for every game, there's like an elite level of whatever that thing is that players are aspiring to be at that level for their whole lives, for a whole career. And when you realize some kind of huge ambition, like in that moment, when you go from not accomplishing it to accomplishing it, it's, when it's like a lifelong endeavor that you've been pushing yourself and struggling and the blood, sweat, and tears, and it's like, I'm not going to judge anybody's reaction to overcoming something like that. Yeah, tech DIY, interesting question. Yeah, you're looking for the secret formula, like hit cross court, then hit down the line, then hit a sharp angle, and then drop shot, boom, you win. The reason why I don't have any videos with a specific, sequence like that is because it might work against one player on one day for 1 point. I'm all about teaching the fundamentals. I'm all about teaching the framework. You would use this when X, Y, and Z. If you don't understand the application and why, then having some kind of sequence of shots is only gonna help you 1 out of 10 times. Because when you go from opponent to opponent, they're gonna have different strengths and weaknesses. And even on each individual day, they're gonna have different things are gonna work and other things are not gonna work. So knowing the rules of thumb and the fundamentals is what's most important, not some kind of magical sequence of shots. So frankly, I'm not gonna make a video like that. I did a video on Serve Plus One and talked about some ideas for you could aim out wide and then hit to the open court. That's about as close as I've come to actually prescribing, here's the sequence, hit here and then hit there, and then hit there and then hit here, and boom, you win. It's not that simple in tennis, because your opponent can make adjustments. And so if you get locked into this sequence or that sequence, and you're hey, how come it's not working anymore? If you don't have the fundamental understanding to be able to improvise, then you just get stuck. And it's whoa, my play's not working, so now what? So I'm all about teaching the now what, as opposed to here, take this, play and just do that. But hopefully that makes sense. I think serve volley, I love serve and volley, Joe. It takes a particular skill set. It takes a certain personality as well to be successful with it. You have to be open to failing again and again. A serve and volleyer is looking to win 51% of the points against a good baseline player on the other side. So if you're not okay with getting passed and lobbed, most tennis players, when they get passed the second or third time, they're just not going to come in anymore. If you want to be a true serve and volleyer, you got to keep coming in, keep coming in, keep coming in, and just kind of hoping that it balances out in your favor. And so it takes a particular kind of person, a particular personality and mindset. And then you have to develop every type of volley, from a gentle, soft half volley, drop shot, to a high, firm, aggressive, put away shot, and everything in between. And if you have any gaps in any of those million shades of gray, then you end up kind of being exposed up at the net. Talking about boa shirts. Yeah, I love serve and volley personally. I'm a big fan. What do you like in serve and volley or power baseline? Yeah. I aspire to be a good baseline player, but my skill set is much more my skills are better suited at the net. But I'm working on being a better baseline player. Jay, look, I've made a whole series of videos on grinder style of players. If you do a YouTube search for Essential Tennis Pusher or Essential Tennis, I'm trying to remember what I titled that series, but I did a whole series of videos on MEP, or the green shirt guy. So it's whatever wins, whatever makes you happy, go ahead and use it. I think it's a totally legit style of play. All right, I'm just going to answer a couple more here, guys, and I have to get ready for some other stuff. Doing some more videos. I'm actually doing a training session later today. Alexi, my ankle, I wouldn't say is fully recovered, but it's very close. I actually did an hour and a half of training on the court yesterday, and I didn't think about it or feel it at all during the training. I didn't think about it or feel it after the training. It was this morning that I moved it around, and it was just a little bit sore. I should have iced it yesterday night. So I would say it's 95% recovered. My back is probably 60 or 70% right now. So much better. But still, I'm still doing stretches and work on it almost every day. Thanks for asking. All right, I'm going to answer one more question, then I've got to sign off. Any more training videos with Coach Eric? Not right now. I definitely will again soon, but I'll answer Ira's question. Oh man, a lot of good questions. I've been training a lot with Scott and Mark, and I'm really enjoying hitting with them a lot. Now that I feel like I've hit a certain capacity in terms of my fitness, my movement, my timing, like my eyes and my hands and my feet, I feel like I can actually give Mark and Scott a good workout as well, and it can be mutually beneficial. At first, I didn't feel like that was the case, and so I felt more comfortable paying Eric to work me out and to train me, as opposed to asking a Mark or Scott to hit with me. Now that I've reached a certain comfort level and amount of output, I'm having really good training sessions with Scott and Mark, and so I've been hitting with them a lot. I'll definitely have Eric, back at some point, hopefully soon. But I love hitting with Scott and Mark also. See you later, Saria. Okay, Ira asked, what's my game plan against MEP? Ira, I don't know if you saw, I made a video, I don't know, a week or two ago, where I talked about kind of a funnel of shots. Was it this video? Oh no, it wasn't this one. It was how not to beat MEP. I'm just seeing if I can find the visual really quickly. I might not have it. Sorry, I don't have it. Oh, wait, here it is. So I use this visual of a funnel and points funneling down to the end. Here it is. And so there's the serve and return phase of a point. There's, oh geez, there's the rally phase. And then somebody applies a little bit of pressure. And then there's an actual threat. That could be somebody really coming inside the baseline and trying to hit an aggressive shot. And then there's the finish. And I was talking about top knot. Not being able to do this part, the finish part of it. But in a nutshell, this is my strategy, to make my way through this sequence as quickly as possible and as repetitively as possible. I'm not going to rally with him. I'm not going to engage in long rallies. I'm going to make my way through this sequence as fast as I can and get to the finish as quickly as possible. So I don't I'm not exactly sure yet how that's going to work out. If it's going to be a lot of mid-courts, like attacking shots, or if it's going to be more so like volley finishes up at the net. But I'm preparing in my training for a lot of both of those types of shots. So in a nutshell, that's my strategy. Ira, yeah, all right, yeah, let's totally hit sometime soon. And then last question here, and then I'm gonna sign off. Somebody said, let's see, Reeker Boy, what keeps driving you every day to improve your game? You know, I don't know if I can answer that, Reeker Boy. Like, all I know is I've had like a really deep drive and desire to push myself, especially in tennis, from a really young age. And it's been tested a few times in my career. It's gone away once or twice, but it's always come back. And when Kevin and Megan left almost a year ago now, and for the first time in 6 years, I was kind of by myself and kind of alone as like the only coach at Essential Tennis. I knew that I had to shift and kind of change my strategy. It was no longer like collaborating with other coaches to create, videos. It was like for the first time in 6 years, Ira was the first coach, then Kirby, then Kevin and Megan. And for the first time since Ira came on, I was in the position to just do what I wanted to do. And I didn't have to like run it past anybody else or like strategize with them about like what they're doing and make sure it like fits with like a plan or anything like that. And when I started thinking about what I really wanted to do, I realized that I would really love it to just try to play tennis again. If Kevin or Megan or Ira or Kirby were still here, I probably wouldn't be able to do that because the environment would be more, collaboration. It would be more, working on content together. I wouldn't feel like I could be selfish, and just be like, oh, well, I want to try to play good tennis again. So everybody help me do that. Where does the motivation come from? I guess just being blessed with the option to do it drives me a lot. Like every day I have the option to be a little bit better than the day before. I kind of live a dream life, honestly, where I can come here to this court and do whatever I want every day. So if I got to the end of my life and I looked back and I saw that I had all of these benefits of like the courts and the ball machine and the community in the Milwaukee area that's like supporting and helping me. If I look back, in my 70s or 80s, and I realized that I didn't just take every opportunity to do the best that I can with all of those opportunities now, then I would have huge regret for that later in life. So that's a big thing for me for sure. But I just love the game. I love to play. So kind of the combination of those things, like the opportunity that I have and just my love of the game. Like why would I not get out here and just push myself as hard as possible every single day? So that's what I do. All right, that's it, everybody. I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Hopefully the lesson was helpful on the mental perspective side of things. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for your support. Yep, definitely living the dream, George, and you all make that possible. So thank you all. I appreciate it tremendously. And we'll have another upload tomorrow. What's coming out tomorrow, Tyler?
Stop getting passed up in that.
Nice. We'll have a lesson on how to get past less frequently at the net tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. All right, thank you all so much. Have a good day.